to me, I've always wondered why I always felt just some kind of discomfort. You never get the time to slow down. And you think you're getting somewhere. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're watching this video, you know that's all bullshit. So I come back, from a few days away from the city, from civilization, just in nature. And coming back, the energy is definitely noticeably different, I tell you. I will say this, when you step outside of the game for a moment, and this game I'm describing being the rules, the following, the little rules of society, of the city, let's say, of civilization, stop on red, go on green. Every little rule, right? Cross only on this crosswalk, stop at the stop sign, oh, beep. When you're away from that and you come back, these things are suddenly like, whereas before they're just like, oh, I breathe air. I didn't know I breathe air. It's just like how fish don't know how they're in water. You come back and you start noticing it so much more vividly. The anxiety that people are under on a more chronic basis in the way that they act. The way that people don't give you eye contact. The way that people don't speak to each other. The way that everyone's at the grocery store, the big chain grocery store, trying to get their own things done, get out of my way. Kind of like it feels like a worker bee. I mean, that's what a city is, right? It's the human version of a bee colony, right? But the energy, you really start to notice it. And what comes out to me is that it's all a game. When you've not been inside the game for a little bit, it becomes, you just start to see it for what it is. The fact that the everyday stresses that people are stressed by, they're actually not really real. Now, of course they're real, but they're not real when you view it from a point of like, wow, this is what we get stressed about day in and day out. This is what causes this chronic anxiety and worry and stress. Having to deal with people in traffic, honking, watching out for people, doing stupid things, people getting in your way when it's almost like this, like there's a certain free-for-all mentality where it's like everyone's out to fend for themselves. Now, obviously, it could be much, much, much worse. Just look at San Francisco or any. I think all this human disconnection adds up, where it's not friendly. It's kind of cold, kind of distant. People are at their jobs, but they hate it. They're miserable. You're a clerk at the dollar store, whatever, right? You're just trying to get by. Inflation is so high. Cost of living is through the roof. Whereas 30, 40 years ago, you could buy a house working at a gas station. Today, you could have dual income, both working office jobs, and you're like barely scraping by. So what is the intention of this video? The intention of this video is I want to point out the fact that if you feel stuck, if you feel kind of trapped, if you feel chronically worried, chronically anxious, there's just that feeling of like unease and discomfort in your life. I want you to know that you're not alone. And I think a huge part of it has to do with the way that we are living, especially if you're living in an urban area where the pace is, it's so fast paced. Everyone's just trying to go from A to B and get that done so they can do the next thing and the next thing. Everyone's just kind of a drone in that sense, right? Obviously, we're not drones, but we can be, when we're in a state of like stress and just trying to get by, we're solely focused on us and not about other people. Other people are just in our way. To me, I've always wondered why I always felt just some kind of discomfort. I just always felt kind of unrelaxed. And I would always beat myself up for it. I would beat myself up for it because it's like, well, you're so privileged, you have the material things, you have food, you have shelter, you have warmth, you have plumbing, you have electricity, you have a good life. You went to a good school, you got into a good school, whatever. You could get a nice job, a nice lofty job, whatever. You could pursue a master's, you could, right? But despite all of that, it's gotten to the point where it's quite meaningless to me. I don't care about it. It's meaningless. I think what I really value is my health and happiness. And my goals now are to support my own health and happiness and realize my vision for my own life. And as a byproduct, I want to be able to support my family and my spouse and give back to the world. But it's starting to click for me a lot of why I felt this way. In a fast-paced urban environment, it's just, you never get the time to slow down. You're always doing something. You're busy always doing something. And you think you're getting somewhere. But you're literally like running on the treadmill. It is the rat race in that sense, right? You think of the most obvious example, cliche maybe a little bit now, at least to me, is the corporate example, right? You go to a good school, you land a good job. Maybe it's not the best, but it's like not too bad, right? And then you work your way up. You build up your resume. You make it look nice. Put all these fancy words on it, even though they have absolutely no resemblance to what you actually did. Doesn't matter. It's how you look on paper, right? You buffer that up, polish up the resume, polish up yourself, dress up nice, present yourself for the interview. And, you move from job to job, try to get better salaries, get better positions. And you hope to retire by 65, right? You hope to save up. You spend 8 hours a day in an office. Running on a treadmill you think you're getting somewhere, but where are you going? Like, in reality, you're getting nowhere. So what when you reach the salary? Your life might improve marginally. Get a little shinier car with a prettier badge. Okay. A little more horsepower, sounds better when you floor it. Maybe get a condo, get some pets, buy some things off Amazon, because now we can buy whatever the hell you want. And I've been guilty of this addiction as well. It's way too easy to buy shit now. And, these big corporations have control over your life. You're subservient to them. You're subservient to the social medias you use. You're subservient to now Amazon, to these big conglomerate platforms where local businesses can't compete. They can't compete. But there's just something about that that's just so empty. And if you don't get what I'm saying, then this message is not for you. But if there's an inkling of like, I can feel it, but I don't know how to describe it, then I'm here with you, man. For so many years, I tried to figure out, what is that feeling always bothering me in the back of my head? I can never figure it out. Why am I anxious? Why am I depressed? Why am I sad? Why can't I just be happy? I have more than I should, let's say, right? I have more than I need. But I'm just never happy. Never happy. Then what is that? I kept asking myself. And it becomes more clear and clear to me that a huge part of our chronic unhappiness and purposelessness is the fact that we are fighting against imaginary problems. And these imaginary problems are because we think we're stuck to the game of this society that we're playing. We feel almost like spiritually, existentially trapped in it. If you break out, then you stick out like a sore thumb, and who wants to do that, right? The people who speak out about corruption and all that, what happens to them, right? But I think the more we get to the point of realizing that there is no adventure in life until you decide the fear of not being free is greater than the fear of fitting in. It really hits you that this entire game that we're all playing here, subconsciously, in a sense, it's a load of horse shit. You don't have to be so attached to this game because it's a socially constructed game whereby everyone in the population agrees to play by the game because everyone else is playing. So if the next person to you is playing, and the next person to that, and the next person to that, and then that is playing, then how could you not play? If you're not playing that game, then, well, you're either a criminal or a outcast or a hippie, right? I just want you to know that there's a way to play the game without being caught up in it. There's a way to be yourself while still playing the game, while not being identified with the game. And from here, I think this is when you're in a truly creative state. Because you could renounce the game. You could run off and, renounce the city, renounce social life, renounce all of this. But then you're just trying to escape. And use spirituality as an excuse. The real difficulty is coming back into this world and taking part in this drama, in this beautiful act, but being true to yourself and knowing who you are at your core. And from this state, despite seeming confinements, you really, truly realize and honor the fact that you are the creative power that has the creative capacity to create your life in whatever manner you choose. And it's not limited to just this linear path that's been brainwashed into you. by well-intentioned people. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're watching this video, you know that's all bullshit. Who actually wants that? I think it's the people who haven't woken up to the fact that they could be whatever the hell they want to be. And it's a frightening realization to make. Because if you realize you couldn't be who you want to be, and you're not that, oh man, that's a lot of trouble. So most people would rather not make that realization. You know, they'd rather stick to what's just good enough. Just good enough to not question deeper what they're put here to do. How much more of an impact they could make. What is the message that they are brought here to speak? What is their truth? And that's okay. But there are some of us who get to the point where it's almost like something is pulling you. Something is calling you. And it's not fear. Something from the sky, something divine. It's calling you to be who you're meant to be and to do what you're meant to do. And 90% of the time, it's difficult. You can't really put it into words. But that's what you have to get good at. And you also have to get good at tuning in to the message. Because a lot of times that message is not through words, it's through a feeling. Not a whimsical feeling, but a deep, existential, intuitive knowing. And that's God speaking to you. That's the universe speaking to you. Those are your dreams. That this is the mystery of your life that you're here to discover. You know, you can never be too rigid on what it is you want and what it is you're here to do, because it's always changing. And it's a never unfolding process. And I believe this process is the process of faith. When you believe that God's plan is greater than your own plan, almightier, grander, in ways that you can even imagine. You have big dreams, God has bigger dreams for you. And a lot of times, it manifests itself in shitty situations that you curse. One of the biggest shifts you make for yourself is seeing how problems are opportunities. Not just seeing, but truly feeling it. When something not optimal happens to you, you know something else is about to happen, and that this is only a test. Take good care of yourself. This is a more unfiltered, raw riff. Honestly, I think, well, whenever these inspirations come up, I'm going to make videos like this, because I believe that there's a message in there that is universal to the human spirit. And if you can understand the message, you can forget the words, as Ram Dass once said. Like and subscribe to the channel. I have so many more bangers coming. This is only the beginning. Just wait and watch. Have yourself a sunny, rainy, cloudy, thunderstormy morning, afternoon, night. and I wish you a life to live for. All right. Bye-bye.